for these challenging technology incidents that we have here. This is new to us. We are still learning. Please be patient. Good afternoon. I am Tonya Lamb from SAPICS, and this is our 4th Community Connect session. This week, our topic is, well, let me say welcome back to everybody first. Those of you that have been with us before and those of you that are new to us. Community Connect is a informal get-together discussion session, sharing ideas, sharing thoughts, venting if you need to. It's an open platform. Today we're going to talk about what laptops, medicines, and food have in common during a global pandemic. Okay, so like I said, informal gathering, get together, chat, share ideas and thoughts. As I say every week, pets are allowed, cats on keyboards, there will be dogs barking, there will be children that most probably need to go to the toilet at some point during this. So all of these things are now acceptable in our new normal lives. So we can't introduce everybody because there's too many of you here, but I am going to shamelessly pick on a few people in the session to say hello to everybody that is here. So who can we get? Sean O'Brien. Tell us a bit about yourself.
Hi everyone, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, hi, my name is Sean O'Brien from a company called Sequential Solutions. We specialize in warehouse management software across various different industries. I am a member of SAPICS. We attend every year. And yeah, it's great to be part of this session and gain some insights and share some ideas to get through COVID-19.
Super, thank you so much. I see we have Tony Rice. Hi Tony, welcome.
Hi, I've just figured out how to unmute my mic. Thank you for the welcome. Yeah, I haven't had rubbed shoulders with SAPICS for some time. I try and attend alternate annual conventions, but this one obviously has crashed in flames like a lot of other things. Funnily enough, I've just come off another webinar with my partner, Kian Leong. We've been running a Zoom webinar on DDMRP with Excel, would you believe? So yeah, we're fairly active in doing what I do, which is impertinent things with Excel, and staying quite busy. I spent most of February on a project in Saudi Arabia, would you believe, and managed to get out just before they closed all the flights. A colleague I was working with there got trapped. He was in Saudi Arabia and all the flights were cancelled. And he said, "What shall I do?" And my advice to him was, well, learn Arabic and convert to Islam. It will make life comfortable for you. He was not amused. Anyway, he did manage to get out. So thanks for the welcome.
That's a pleasure. Thanks for joining us. Last one I'll pick on is Leon. How are you, Leon?
Which one, Tanya? Me?
Yes, you.
How you guys doing?
Good, and you?
Good. My name is Leon. I'm from a company called Easy Access. We specialize in access equipment across all industries, and also Lindy material handling machines for warehousing, heavy applications, production, all those kind of things. So yeah, we've also had an interesting time. We were fortunate enough to be able to continue doing business on Teams with companies that did not slow down on production. So yeah, we've had an interesting time, and I'm really excited about this presentation.
Thank you. So we have a really mixed bag of people with us today. It's a pity we can't introduce everybody, but I think we'll be here for some time if we do that. Oh. So the question is, what do medicines, laptops, and food have in common? Let's have you think about that for a few minutes. Scratch our heads. Aside from the supply chain professionals that run the supply chains to make sure we have all these things, there is one common denominator. So I'm going to leave that with you for a moment. Waste. So we're going to look at this in a little bit more detail, but aside from the fact that supply chain professionals run the supply chains that manufacture, make, and deliver all these things, a lot of them share the same issue, which is waste. So we're going to have a look at each of those differently, and I look forward to comments and your thoughts and suggestions as we go along. So we know that there's a lot of food waste, and I know that it was in the news, I think this morning or yesterday, about SA breweries having to discard of, I don't know how many millions of liters of beer. That's just one example. The farmers whose food is being left to rot because they can't harvest it. So there's a lot of waste going on there. Oh, so demand obviously predicts what's required, and at the moment we all know the demand forecast and the demand planning is up the creek. So all the plans to provide food to restaurants, those that need it for food services and institutions, tanked out. Restaurants aren't serving food, takeouts aren't serving food. There are no cafeterias in the universities, or even in businesses for that matter, that are using food that was planned for. So the bulk of fruits and vegetables that are sold through the service sector, which is almost shut down, even with the same ingredients, the way that they're packaged and move through the supply chain is different. So you can't even use the food that has been prepared or planned for restaurants and other organizations, because the way it's packed and pulled together is different. It's not suitable for our market, for us to walk into the Pick and Pay or the Spars of this world and buy the food. Meats are cut differently and packed differently. And obviously the up-end restaurants, the fancy ones, have high value products that you wouldn't normally buy in your grocery store. They can't be sold. So those are a few of the challenges that we face. Okay, let me go to our warehousing side. Suppliers have nowhere to store the produce. I mean, you saw in the video the hundreds and thousands of liters of milk that's being just thrown away because there is nowhere for it to go. The producers are unable to move it due to the transport issue. So if you've got food, for example, coming in from overseas and it's sitting in a container, chances are it's going to go off before it comes in on shore. That is, if it's fresh. So there are those challenges. We looked at the harvesting and the food that is just rotting because it can't be harvested and moved and sold. So before all of COVID-19 happened, a third of all food produced is lost and wasted along the food chain from production to consumption. So you can imagine how much of that is happening now. So I want to stop here after the food section, and I want to ask for some input, some thoughts. Anybody in the food industry, anybody that transports food, what are your experiences? Have you got anything else to add to this? Don't be shy. Just put up your hand. Oh, nobody in the food sector. Nobody's got any contribution to make on that area of waste.
Hi,
Tanya,
it's Andrew.
Sorry.
Hello, it's Andrew.
Hi, Andrew. Fire away.
This is, from my side, rather more emotional than practical. I'm horrified. I do have an associate who's a city councillor in Alexandra.
Mm-hmm.
And again, there was initially the politicization of the distribution of food parcels, et cetera, and he asked for help in sourcing food parcels. And I just have a major problem getting my mind around food being wasted, for starters. That's why I find certainly countries like the United States of America very uncomfortable in as much as the amount of food that they waste and the size of helpings and their attitude to food. Whereas in South Africa and Africa, food is precious. And yet we're seeing all this food rotting in the field. We're seeing beer, which is close to my heart, being wasted. And at the same time, we've got hungry children. We've got hungry people. This is what is eating me up, because I can't see how we can get this excess food from supermarkets. Yes, lots of it, I believe, is going to, is being distributed to the poor. But at the same time, we've got excess food, and at the same time, we've got children going hungry. This is what really upsets me.
Yeah, it's a very skewed picture. And I read something this morning on LinkedIn where they had put together food packages, and they were intercepted, and the food was taken away by the police because it was an illegal distribution. So it's a complete imbalance of kind of supply and demand. There was something else. Yes, legal. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I don't know, maybe some other people have also heard of this. I've seen some Telegram groups being started up with farmers in certain areas where they now try to sell directly to the public their produce, and I think that might actually be one of the solutions, because people may be able to get it a little bit cheaper than what they would normally pay for things they buy in the shops, and they help the farmers to get. So I saw there were Telegram groups for like certain areas, Western Cape, Cape Town, certain areas in Cape Town, certain areas in Northwest near Brits. There was one in Cullinan, in Gauteng. So they definitely trying to make another plan that food doesn't need to go to waste. I don't think the volumes are the same, and the distribution obviously would be very different, because you're now not supplying in bulk, you're supplying in smaller quantities. But I believe people will make a plan.
I certainly do hope so.
Add on that as well,
Dave?
Tanya. Yeah, Tanya. So I've been working with a client for a couple of years now, and they're a fruit juice supplier, and they've had to very quickly pivot. They were supplying into the food industry, the food services industry, restaurants, hotels, businesses. They're now doing home deliveries, number one, and number two, they're helping their suppliers of fruit by making that available as well. So they're not just supplying fruit juice anymore, they're now supplying fruit and vegetables to homes. So they really had to pivot quickly and make a plan. And I think people will do that, and we'll see a change. You know, we're getting all our vegetables and fruit and meat all delivered to home from butcheries and that have set these facilities up now.
Yeah, I mean, that's really, really nice that they are helping their suppliers to market as well. I saw something again, I'm sure it was on LinkedIn, about one of the stores in, I don't know if it was a Spar or Pick and Pay, making shelves available to the, you know, the small side food sellers, so that they can make a living and sell their wares at the same time. So there is some innovative, creative stuff that's going on. I just think that we need more of it. And Andrew, to your point, how do we get all this wasted food to the people that so desperately need it?
To add on to that, Tanya.
Yes, sure.
Yeah, speaking. Yeah, I'm an engineer and I work at the Spar DC in Joburg, the East Rand. And on a good note, we've got like a reverse logistics system. So any damages or any stock coming back from stores or any stock that's damaged in the warehouse, we've got a system where we try to salvage as much as we can. So for example, if we've got a four cousins wine that comes in a six wines in a case, but one of the wines, the labels are off, we can't actually send that to the store. So what we'll do is get a new label, print it, stick it back onto the wine so we can send it off. So I mean, I know that's like one of the ways we help with salvaging some of that food waste. So not all hope is lost.
No, definitely not all hope, but there's a lot more we can do and we need to be doing. And I think as supply chain professionals, we need to apply our minds to it, and collectively, you know, as Jenny always says, together everyone achieves more. And I think in this specific instance, that definitely is the case. So that being said, and having spoken about the food aspect, laptops. So the question around this is, how is this possible? So because the bulk of the population are now working from home, there's been a massive increase in the purchase of laptops, which has left desktop computers kind of with nowhere to go. And obviously they become redundant very quickly, and they need to be, I don't know, dumped somewhere. I don't know what they do with them, but they're a horrible thing to try and get rid of. But I mean, let's not look at the waste of the production, the imports of parts and products that go along with these computers. So I don't know if anybody's experienced anything in the technological space in terms of waste other than just computers and laptops. Nothing there.
I can just quickly relate. I had an upgrade. I did an upgrade on my phone the other day, and the courier said to me that their busiest product, or their product that's mostly delivered, is RAIN SIM cards. Everybody's looking for that 5G uncapped internet.
I can well believe it. Yeah, and I mean, yeah, I can believe that. Gamu, was that you?
Hello, Tonya. Yes, it's me. Yes, I wanted to say I'm not that much experienced. I don't know anything about IT, but I know recently at work there was a communication on how we must be. I know we've been talking about carbon print, not replying to unnecessary communication, not clogging up our inboxes with emails and all that. And there was communication also that it's about time we may start to look at carbon print and the management of electronic data itself. So, you know, we are all on Zoom, we are creating a lot of electronic data, and apparently there's also waste management that has to be done, like electronic, like data-wise. So it was just interesting for me to know that.
It's an interesting point, Gamu, and we will have a webinar around that, and we will probably have a Community Connect session around that specific topic, because that's becoming a big problem. You know, we thought that we were getting things under control with our carbon footprint in terms of flights and travel, but the amount of electronic data that we're using, the emails, the Zoom, it's probably going to far exceed our carbon footprint in terms of flights and travel, etc. So that's really scary at the moment. So we think that we're doing the world a favor by not traveling and staying at home and working, where actually we're causing just as much harm to the planet. So you spot on there, and there are a lot of some interesting statistics around that, Gomu. So we'll share more about that. Any other thoughts on the technological side?
Tonya, could I just come in slightly more general, apart from actual electronic recycling, but general recycling? During the lockdown, I've accumulated an awful lot of plastic, metal, paper, cardboard, and glass. I saw an advert by the glass recycling company. It came up as a pop-up. And so I contacted them and they said, yes, there are bottle places at various shopping centers, those big green bottle containers. The one I went to up the road was pretty full, but I got rid of all my glass. But I'm sitting right now with massive amounts of plastic, cardboard, and metal, particularly plastic. So this is an issue, I think, that's affecting us. If I knew that there were recycling facilities available, I'd be there like a shot. But it seems that the ones that I normally frequent are closed.
That's bizarre. So we've got a backlog of other waste as well. I know that when the refuse goes out, the chaps are coming around and taking all the plastic. That I've seen, but in terms of anything else, no. So we have a backlog there as well.
Tonya, I don't know, but down in Cape Town where I live, we have a weekly guy comes around, he collects all our recycling, takes it away.
Oh, really?
On a weekly basis. Yeah, we're way ahead of the pack down here in Cape Town.
Okay, just calm yourself down in Cape Town.
Durban normally has that, but they've actually suspended the service because of COVID-19, because the waste is manually sorted and there's risk of spreading the disease when people are sorting through other people's waste to do that. It's quite interesting.
Yeah, no, that is, I mean, that's a big risk. If you think that when they started out, they were talking about COVID living for so many hours on cardboard and so many hours on plastic, it's gone from hours to days now. So, I mean, those people would be seriously compromised in the stuff that they're handling.
However, Tonya, my recycler has sent a message around saying that Consul's not recycling any glass at the moment. So we can't put any glass into the recycling system, but plastic and paper and cardboard is not a problem.
The irony here in Johannesburg is that Pick It Up, who used to be notoriously unreliable, are like regular clockwork now during the lockdown. They are there bang on time every week. But the problem is the recycling. People are just not knowing what to do with it. And I certainly don't want it to go into the landfill.
Yeah. So again, it's another challenge that we have, and as supply chain professionals with our ability to plan and transport and distribute, maybe we need to put our heads together for something like that. I mean, all these things come with challenges and we need some innovative and creative solutions. So moving on from the laptops to medicine. So as a result of COVID-19, there is an enormous amount of rubbish that is contaminated, that's been used in hospitals to treat patients, etc. It's also, we've seen an increase in the disposable personal protective equipment, like the masks and the gloves and things like that. And they are also not very, not user-friendly, not globally friendly, especially the plastic gloves and things like that. And people just tend to leave them lying around. They're going into the regular trash, and that's just going to cause more problems in terms of what we do with them. When can we recycle them? What happens to them? I mean, if all these things are going into the trash and they're still carrying COVID-19 disease, then we have a tad of a problem. We're looking up to 6 times as much medical waste at the peak of the outbreak than at any other time. I mean, that is substantial. If we were struggling before to move waste, we really do have a problem now. And I think being, you know, the first world countries might be managing this better, but in terms of where we are in third world, not so much. I mean, the bottom picture there, you can see the amount of garbage that needs to be moved. And basically it's hazardous stuff that needs to go. And then the discarding of unused medications. So one of the concerns with the medications is that it may have been contaminated somehow with COVID-19. So to eradicate the risk of that, they destroy it. And that's huge waste. I mean, that could be going to people that need it, especially if it's not properly managed. There's a big risk there. So I know that, and somebody knows I'm going to pick on them now, but in terms of, Jenny, maybe you can give us some insight into other waste in terms of medication that's being disposed of or not used because of COVID-19, that's run out of shelf life, etc.
Well, I think I will definitely hand over to Gamu on this from a pharmacist point of view. But before I do that, I just wanted to say that I don't know how many people are aware of what goes on from a recycling or re-engineering is the wrong word. I can't think what it is, but things like the tops of these bottles and the actual syringes themselves. There are materials in those that are harvested by various people. I was talking to a person from the KZN Department of Health who was talking about the amount of silver that they actually extract from discarded commodities such as needles, etc. So much so that they can then sell that, and the money that they raise from the selling of that can actually pay for their electricity for a year or a month. So from a circular economy perspective, there's definitely an example in that. How COVID-19 and something that is so contagious and so unknown has affected or will affect that sort of process, that I don't know. But I think that is a really interesting element, that when we see waste, our view of waste is often different to the people who know what's in the waste and how they can use that. So that's me finished, but I think the pharmacists amongst us who know the facts about what's happening to the medicines might have something to say.
Gamu, you want to weigh in on that?
There is Cindy here. Cindy, you are online. Today I'm not talking a lot.
You don't want to talk a lot.
Cindy's here as well. We've got Cindy, I think it's Cindy Hayward that we've got on board, who will also know answers to these questions, I think. And she made a really good point about the things that are the same or similar that they all have in common is that people hoard them. Not so much the laptops, but the food and the medicines. That's a big problem, is hoarding of these items as well. Over to you, Cindy. First connect, and you're in the spotlight.
Okay, so hi everyone. I was having big connectivity issues, so I missed a lot of this. So can I just quickly catch up on the slide and then I'll give you some feedback?
Definitely. In the meantime, Tonya can carry on with her stimulating, thought-provoking stuff. It's definitely getting me thinking about what I can look at and do differently.
I think that the waste discussion is a big topic, and I think we need to be talking more about it. No, having said that, we need to do more about it and not talk about it. And again, as supply chain professionals, it's our responsibility to try and keep things clean and tidy up behind ourselves. It's not always easy to do, but I think it's getting a little bit out of control at the moment. The waste issue. So I don't know, does anybody else want to give some comments, contribute, weigh in?
It's Jenny again. I was just going to say that one of the areas that I think that is from the informal supply chain sector are the waste pickers, who I think people totally underestimate the value of what they do. And their very survival is at risk from a humanitarian perspective because they've not been allowed to work. But also from a domestic perspective, I don't know, the whole volume of waste has changed from offices creating the waste to now homes creating the waste because everybody's at home. So again, that whole cycle of supply and demand has changed enormously.
Yeah, you see, these are all the things that we typically don't think about. We just assume everything will just fall into place around us, and that changes the planning of pickup and how much needs to be moved and how often, etc., etc., etc.
So I think perhaps I can weigh in right here. It's Cindy speaking. Just a short introduction. I'm Cindy Hayward, and I'm the responsible pharmacist at DHL Supply Chain. So again, I'll do a disclosure. Everything I say is my own opinion and not that of DHL. But having worked with lots of pharmaceutical and medical device companies in our distribution, supply chain and network, what we do pick up is that a lot of the community, people in general, do not know how to dispose of waste. And we are very fortunate that we have a very good partnership with our waste company that does incineration. And they often give us some statistics on waste management in general in South Africa. And an interesting fact to look at in this COVID crisis possibly is medical waste that you did not think would be medical waste. So in the past, things we were made attentive of was that an adult diaper contains enough medicine to be classified as medical waste. I'm not sure how many people on the school know that, but if we look at patients who have COVID, who've been positively diagnosed with it, you would have to look at all types of waste, from the medicine that they've been taking and touching and contaminating with the virus, to all of the PPE that's being contaminated. I mean, if you have a suspected case, all of that waste has to be treated as medical waste. And during this time as well, people with home medication need to be educated about medical waste as well, because people generally tend to flush their medicine down the toilet or throw it into the general waste bin. It ends up at landfill, where it becomes a massive risk, not only to the wildlife, green systems in general, but also to individuals accessing the landfill and taking expired medicine or compromised, contaminated medicine. And Gamo, I'm not sure how much of this you have touched on, but I think that's just a general thing we see in the supply chain.
Yes, Cindy, thanks for mentioning that. And as well, I'm presenting from a personal point of view. Chef, introduce myself previous. So we work very close with Cindy here. We actually like service provider and supplier. So I work for Johnson & Johnson, but under SAPICS, I'll be at a personal level. So yeah, Cindy, you've covered a lot. And I must say, we experience a lot of like reverse logistics in the pharma field, products being returned back. And you mentioned, Cindy, how people must know how to discard medicines, but now we are looking at gloves, we are looking at masks. Some of these products are surgical, are under medical components, and I'm sure we have seen on the roads, some of these gloves are thrown all over, some of these masks are thrown all over, and with medicines, if they expired, if they what, maybe it's written on the container like, okay, take this back to your pharmacy, but has there been awareness, has there been any pre-communication to the community at large how to handle these surgical products that they are now using? Of course, we have cloth masks, but I see a lot of people are still on the streets jogging, wearing N95 masks, and some even wearing powdered gloves, you know? So yeah, it's quite something that's gonna pose a challenge. And in terms of medical waste destruction, it's a process. You know, we've got pharmaceuticals, we've got medical devices, there's a process. And in South Africa, with medical device themselves, there's been upgrade of regulations with the South African Health Regulatory Authority. and there's not so many service providers who manages the distribution of healthcare products in general. So it's one angle. Maybe someone is interested to look for a business opportunity. There's not so many service providers. So many times they've got a backlog. And with supply chain, with medicines, we are talking for traceability from raw materials up to the destruction point. So if we want to trace, if they say there were gloves that were produced and they find that people are getting a rash from them, or they cause cancer, let's say the worst case, we should be able to trace from the point it was produced up until the destruction point. And now we are having products lying everywhere. And supply chain, we've already read of reports on fake products. I'm sure you've read already. There's been fake testing medical devices for COVID. There's been fake devices for temperature testing, you know, and fever. And now, because of the situation that we are in, when we get products in the country, they have to go through a regulatory process, you know, and companies must be able to produce their documentation for the validations to say whatever they're giving or they're providing has been tested and it works as it's supposed to be. But now with the situation that we're in, everything is speed up. The regulator has been asked for volunteers, you know, to look at documentation. Now it's just, okay, quick documentation. This can be used in the community. So yeah, I'm sure as much as we are in this, there's also a lot of fake products in the market, that are flooded the market, counterfeit. I cannot deny that. Yeah.
Yeah, I know that is typically a problem in the health sector already. And it wasn't going to take much time before people, you know, capitalized on or cashed in on the opportunities to do that. So I don't know how that compromises the health and well-being of the people that need to be treated. Obviously, the counterfeit is substandard. I don't know. In some cases, it may be as good as. I don't know. That's not my area of expertise. Gamu?
Okay, can you try to clarify? Are you saying how best can we get to avoid the counterfeit products, or?
Is it possible? And secondly, I know that these counterfeit products are often on par or as good as the real thing.
Yeah. It is possible, because all the products that are coming before, let's say, the minister or MEC goes and hand over them, there's still a check that's being done, because they fall under medical devices, and there's a regulations that say before they go to the market. So the supplier provides some documents from the manufacturing plant, wherever it is, from Europe, Asia. But now these are huge quantities. So it's now at high level. It's just, okay, here the validation documents for a consignment of 100,000 pieces. You know, we're no longer going into the depths of how the process, how it normally goes on a normal day to day. So yeah, but it's medical devices. It's not something that we are taking oral, so we may not experience like some big challenges from that. But when it comes to to testing devices, you know, if your temperature is 37 and then the medical device is not functioning well, then it says state 4 and maybe you're already infected, that can be a challenge.
Yeah, I know.
I think that if we could solve the problem of counterfeit goods, be they medical or alcohol or cigarettes or whatever it is, if we could solve that amongst ourselves, wouldn't that be amazing? But I think that there are so many things that are being introduced, like the whole blockchain methodology, and Cindy's also talking about the barcoding and serialization that becomes ever more sophisticated. And I think that this is where, again, it goes back to what these main elements that we're discussing here have got in common, is the efficacy of the end product that reaches the consumer, and the security of the various supply chains that are involved in the products.
That's very true. It's very true. And I was just thinking, there was a word now where Peter mentioned that all of a sudden this is the time everyone knows what is supply chain. And that's very interesting. And I was just thinking, studying pharmacy and everything, you really don't get to learn about supply chain or, you know, but when you look at it, everything is tied together, you know, supply chain, serialization. There are countries like India, where when you are exporting something to them, or Japan, or we are importing medicine products, you have to make sure that everything is identified to the T. You know, like for example, let's say alcohol swabs, they are very small units. How are you even able to identify out of million components in a box, you know? But that's where the pharma field itself is looking forward to go to.
Okay, so we have some challenges on our hands with regards to that. Is there anybody else that wants to weigh in terms of waste removal, waste reduction, waste handling, the way they're doing something innovative, something different that they're aware of? I mean, we've got lots of different industries participating here, and I'm sure that there are some other ideas or things that are being done differently. Yeah, everybody's so quiet. Okay. Okay. Okay, so after every session, I want to ask the question, what have I learned? In every session that you attend in Community of Connect, just one thing that you have learned from today's session. It could be anything. It could be you didn't know that a third of food was wasted, or I don't know. There has to be something, one small thing that everybody takes away. And that is the point of these sessions. Not only to get together and share ideas, but to learn from each other. We're all in different phases of our journey within our professional careers. We're all in different industries. We all specialize in different areas. So, I mean, be it procurement, be it production, whether it's distribution, you know, supply chain is vast. So we all sit in different areas. We all cover different things. And within supply chain, we can never stop learning. As we sit in this COVID-19 situation now, everything has changed in supply chain management, and it will never be the same ever again. So we have lots of challenges, and with those challenges, we need to learn, and we need to be skilled, and we need to try and anticipate what's coming and how to deal with it. And these are difficult times, especially in this profession. The upside is that now suddenly everybody knows what supply chain management is, and hopefully as a result of this, we'll have a pipeline of bursting talent coming into supply chain management of smart youngsters that can change the world. And on that topic, we have a young man here, Bokang. He was part of the ASCM Case Study Award. You were studying with a team of South Africans in the Netherlands. Bokang, are you one of these up and coming young hot professionals that we want to hear about? Do you want to tell us a little bit about, it's completely off topic, I guess, but if we're developing talent to deal with all these issues, what did you learn from being part of that study?
For me, because in the competition we dealt with quite a number of I don't know, my connection is a bit unstable. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Can everybody hear me?
We can hear you. It's a bit delayed, but we can hear you.
So I was saying, in the competition, we were presented with a number of cases. Okay. So in the competition, we were presented with a number of cases, nothing really waste specific. I remember the first one was about material handling and production, and the second one was more along the lines of ICT and logistics. So there was nothing really waste specific, but if I could just weigh in on the waste topic, what I've realized in the Netherlands is that households are encouraged to sort their own waste. So that that makes waste management quite simple for the Netherlands. So I think if maybe reverse logistics systems were to be set up in South Africa to enable households to sort their own waste, looking at medicines, looking at electronics, if we were able to sort those out ourselves at our homes, then I think it would be much easier to manage the waste in that regard.
No, absolutely in agreement. Just share with us a little bit about your experience. And I'm putting you on the spot here. Not everybody likes to talk, albeit publicly. But did you learn a lot? Has it expanded your knowledge in terms of supply chain management?
It has expanded my knowledge immensely because the cases that we were presented with were actually real world cases. So companies approached either ASCM or Deloitte with their problems. And then after they were solved, then they were presented to us as students to come up with our own solutions. So when you come together with other students from all over the world to actually present your solutions, you get to learn a lot also from what other students are thinking about the problems and how they are solving the problem. So it really expanded our knowledge immensely because, again, I think I was speaking to Jenny yesterday about the difference between APICS modules and university modules. And she explained to me that universities are still trying to keep up to date with the trends in the supply chain world. So that's something that we are lacking at university. That's something that I also realized that we are lacking at our university in terms of our curriculum. Because we were presented with a case about demand sensing in the regional finance of the competition, and we didn't know it was something completely new to us. So we had to research about it. And so I think the competition really, broadened my horizon in terms of supply chain.
Thank you, Bakang, and well done. And it's thoroughly exciting that there are these experiences available for the youngsters. I think that our up-and-coming young professionals are going to be our move forward in supply chain management because they tend to be more creative and innovative. They think differently to the way we think, certainly in terms of addressing problems and challenges. It's a whole different, that's a whole different discussion for another day. In terms of about the university curriculums, yeah, it's a problem now. And I think we touched on this briefly last week. It's going to be an even bigger problem now post COVID-19 to get these youngsters ready to tackle on the supply chains of the future is going to be a heavy burden from a skills point of view.
Hello, so, Tonya.
Hello.
Yeah, I wanted to say I was talking to my lecturers from my university, and I was telling them in the pharmacy department itself, I think all the pharma students, they need to do at least a module in supply chain. And I just want to say, if every profession can get that exposure of supply chain, because you finish your studies and then you wake up, you get this role, you're a warehouse pharmacist or you're a distribution pharmacist, and you really don't have an idea of what's distribution, what's supply chain. So I think with the education system in general, because at the end of the day, whatever business you are in, service, product, there's supply chain involved there somehow. Yeah.
No, you are 100% right. Supply chain touches every aspect of our lives every single day. So absolutely everybody should have a basic understanding of supply chain management. And going off topic again, and we will cover this in another session, but I was just talking with Dave, has he gone? Dave Hallett, about SMMEs understanding supply chain management, because they typically have skills that are marketing and finance related, but they don't understand supply chain and how differences can be made in their business or enhancements, understanding supply chain management. So I'm talking a lot now. Does anybody have any last comments or thoughts, suggestions, ideas before we wrap up our session today? I'd like to hear from some people that are very quiet.
I am still here, by the way, Tanya.
Where are you? I can't see you, Dave.
I've muted my camera.
I can't even see on the screen. I mean, do you want to just give us a quick rundown on how, because SMMEs are very relevant at the moment, and how supply chain management basic introduction could benefit them enormously in the grander scheme of things?
Yeah, so I mean, most of us have come through to supply chain via some sort of supply chain route, whether it's operations or warehousing or planning or procurement or whatever it is, and then come into the supply chain realm. For SMEs or for entrepreneurs who are running a business, we sort of just see there's an opportunity to really help them to get their heads around some of the basics of supply chain. So really supply chain 101, and simple, things as simple as how does basic demand planning work? I know we're looking at other methods of planning now, but sales and operations planning, what are the key elements of a supply chain and how do they fit together? I know coming into a SAPICS conference, for an example, can be a very intimidating thing for somebody who's never been exposed to supply chain. So that's sort of the idea of some of the things that we're going to try and tackle.
Yeah, and there's lots of talent out there in terms of SMMEs, and we don't want to waste that talent either. So if we can work with them and support them, we can grow our business and our economy. Any other Chantal, you've been very quiet this week. Can I pick on you?
Hi. What do you want to pick on me with, though? That is
I don't know.
question.
Give us some your thoughts on waste.
I think for me, I think someone mentioned earlier about all this waste that's happening and how sad it is to see the waste. Mm-hmm. But the reality is, I mean, I was looking at the milk waste that you were talking about earlier, or the dairy waste, and when I first heard about it, I was like, but people are still drinking milk, people are still drinking yogurt, but it's not about the actual consumption, it's about the disruption of the supply chain. Mm-hmm. And I think everything we're looking at, everything we're seeing right now is hugely disrupted. There's a huge amount of abnormality in supply chain right now. And the biggest challenge for us as supply chain professionals is trying to figure out what the next 6 months, the next 12 months are going to look like before things start to normalize again. And also what that new normal point will be, because people are going to change the way they structure their supply chains. I mean, I was looking at some McKinsey articles earlier today, and the reality is we're going to start looking more at local sourcing as opposed to international sourcing. We're going to start localizing supply chains just so that you avoid the risks that they're probably experiencing right now in terms of international supply and challenges with getting product through the doors. Mm-hmm. I mean, breweries was a good example in that they've got this abundance of beer waiting to go out to market that's about to go off because of the 3-month shelf life. They've had to operate to empty the brewing vats, and now they're standing. And it's waste as well.
Yeah, I thanks, Chantal. I think these are areas that we've touched on in terms of waste. I think there is a lot more out there that we haven't even given a thought to, and there will be a lot more of it because of the change in the demand, consumer spending, etc., etc. So, with that being said, do we have any last comments or thoughts or input? No, everybody's still very quiet.
Yeah, I'm just going to say, Cindy again just chipped in with my favorite thing. She used the word, everyone, we will hopefully see more collaboration. And like Tonya, you said, that's my mantra, is that the problems are all, or the problems and the challenges and the opportunities are all huge, and we will all work so much better together than on our own.
Yeah, and I think we are starting to see that in a lot of areas, which is really, really encouraging, but we need to see more of it. So we'll go back to the one thing I've learned. We will, our session is up on LinkedIn, the details of it. And if you're able to just pop a one-word answer about what you've learned on that post on LinkedIn. You just search for SAPICS, we're there, it's simple. If you don't follow us, definitely do follow us. Just two things to note is that you can get a certificate of attendance for attending the session towards CPD points. And we will be sending out a survey afterwards, asking you some questions about the session. What do you think of it? And as well as topics. So what topics would you like to hear about? What information would you like to see? We put them together, but it may not necessarily be what you want to hear about, what you want to learn about. So it's important that we're talking to topics that are important to you and that add value to you as our supply chain community. So that being said, I'm going to say thank you all for your participation. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you for everybody that contributed. And for those that you didn't, we'll pick on you next time. But yes, I hope to see you all next week and have a super weekend because it's almost there. And we hope to see you next week. Take care, everyone, and thank you for being here.
Thanks, Tonya. Appreciate it.
Pleasure.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Gamu, we're going to have you do your own session if you're not careful.
See, I talk, I must listen. Eh? I'm trying to build up my, but yeah, I'm enjoying this.
I'm glad. It's good to have you here, and you really do contribute a lot, and we're grateful for that.
Now I'm glad. I dragged Cindy. I spoke with her yesterday. I'm like, Cindy, we need to attend to this.
You see, so you're already talking about it. It was front of mind for you.
No, let me learn up, and yeah, it's good. I'm enjoying it. Thanks a lot.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye, Gamu.
Just making sure I've removed everybody before I start talking. Hello.
Hello, everyone.
I must just tell you that my connection completely bombed out, that I phoned Claire and I said, please tell me it's still going on. So you guys were still merrily on your way and carrying on.
I think everyone was having big connection problems today.
Yeah, it does.